Welcome to week 6. We're going to start off with chapter 8 of our primary text, where our authors focus on, you guessed it, communication and leadership. They describe communication as not being contained within the organization, but instead communication is the organization. Take a little time and reflect on what that means. What does it mean? What did the authors mean when they shared that with us? And what does it mean to you and your organization if communication is the organization? Now, they use that as a segue into the primary thrust of the article, which is change. And of course, change is difficult. Cultures are organized around deeply rooted assumptions. This can be cultures internationally, nationally, organizationally, within your department. All that kind of culture gets embedded, right? And so it's tough to change. There are also some assumptions and values that affect every aspect of our lives, including our organizational life, which makes change difficult. Now, beginning on page 254, your authors describe some key habits and rituals for building 4 types of energy for change. They include physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Now read through those and then incorporate these habits into your own life, those habits that you can kind of take and make them your own. That's the way the real learning will take place for you. Your authors have this quote in the chapter 8. They talk about how information has little value unless it is shared or disseminated. Now it reminds me, I used to work for an admiral when I was at U.S. Pacific Fleet who said, knowledge is power, but only when it's shared. Now, that's powerful when you think about it, because oftentimes within an organization, people think they need to maintain power by holding information. I've got information that other people need, but true power for the organization as well as that individual, whether they realize it or not, is information that is shared. All right, on page 274 of your primary text, there's a good communication style inventory. I encourage you to take that, reflect on what the findings are, and then as always, apply that to how you can improve your own communication as a leader. So we have 2 additional readings this week, starting with Meyer, who wrote, to be effective, a negotiator must take stock of the subtle message being passed around the table. This is all about negotiation, right? And there's lots of negotiations going on. Every day you're negotiating, whether you realize it or not. Now the focus of this, of course, is the international negotiation, and that fits right into our course for the international emphasis that we have in global leadership. But you can apply that to just about any organization or any aspect of your life. Think about those subtle messages, not just what's said, what is not said. What are the nonverbals that are being communicated? And so you can take that and use that to, again, help with your own communication. And then I also encourage you to look at the 5 rules of thumb for negotiating in other cultures. Now, again, they have this international focus, but even if you're in an organization that doesn't have international aspect, you can still use it because there are different cultures right here, wherever we happen to be living, right? Or someone can be living next door, and because of their worldview, have a different culture or a different outlook. And so those 5 rules of thumb, I think, are very helpful for negotiation. Okay, and our final article this week is Rubin and Gigliotti. In there, we learn about how communication is a topic frequently linked to leadership. We've been hammering that throughout this term. But the linkage is often limited to a view of using communication as a tool. Right? It's used by leaders in order to achieve a particular purpose, and that's fine. I teach a course on communication, on using communication in a purposeful way, right? But the aim of this study is to provide a more expansive view of communication, kind of like the whole communication process, its current and potential contributions to an understanding of leadership theory and dynamics. Now, don't get bogged down in the theory. Theory is important. It's what we base upon, or it's what we base most of our research upon, of course. But for this course and for this whole program, you use theory in a way that is applicable, right? So try to take that theory and apply it to your own leadership and communication. And one of those ways you can do that is to review the leadership communication principles and practice. That begins on page 475 of that article and continues through 477. Okay, short one this week. As always, stay ahead with your assignments, stay engaged in the discussion board, and of course, enjoy your time of learning.